having a man become such a liability for embarrassment, because that's actually a bit of a paradigm shift that Sabrina Carpenter has her finger on the pulse of.
So what Sabrina Carpenter is singing about, and this previous creator is referring to, is the misogyny in marketing of celebrities. And as someone who works freelance in marketing and PR, and I'm always available if you need me, this is not necessarily a new concept, in that men are often a higher PR risk for any brand than women are. But it's interesting with this new modern day lens we've put on it when you break it down into different facets. Like Sabrina sings, "Please don't embarrass me," because she's acknowledging the misogyny that still subtly exists in society, where for some reason we still view women as extensions of their male partners. So when males do terrible things, even if it has nothing to do with the women they're in a relationship with, it reflects poorly on the woman for some reason still. And the new way we're seeing this now, and not sure how to integrate it, is that women in the last 10, 20, maybe 30 years are becoming their own brands, right? Celebrity women are standing on their own, and they're building brands based off of feminism and things like that. So we expect them to be these great feminist icons, but for some reason we still have this misogyny that leaks onto them through their partners. And Sabrina Carpenter is addressing an issue that a lot of celebrity women face, and it's a reason that a lot of celebrities keep their relationships very hush-hush until they're very certain and sure about the person. Because under modern day misogyny, from a PR aspect, it's still infinitely more likely that a man will tarnish your brand rather than make it better. And it really starts to get interesting when you look at the inverse of this, when women are often used to better men's brands. And it's not often that women's actions on their own, like on their own accord that don't affect men, bring down the men's brands in the same way men can bring down women. And to be clear, this is when the person's actions have nothing really to do with their partner directly. For example, times that a man made a woman's brand look bad is when Simone Biles' husband, I think, right? I don't remember if it's her boyfriend or her husband, went on that podcast, and that was just humiliating for her, and she didn't really have anything to do with that. He just went off on his own accord. And yet, of course, the public reaction is that that was really embarrassing for her. Or Ariana Grande and SpongeBob. Now, a lot of things went sour there, but specifically, people often blame SpongeBob's parenting on Ariana for some reason, even though his parenting is entirely his own responsibility and his own choices. Or when Kim and Kanye were married and Kanye would go off, that reflected sadly poorly on Kim. Or when Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce. Beyonce didn't have any say or anything to do with that, and yet the public discourse reflected poorly back in that day on Beyonce. We could go on in these. But on the flip side, instances when a man made a woman's brand better or look good, I sat for a long time and tried to think of an example, and I couldn't even come up with one after doing a deep dive on the internet. And that says a lot. But when you directly look at the inverse of these two, times that a woman made a man look bad, the only time I could really come up with was Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Although, if I recall, the public was still heavily on Will Smith's side and strongly empathized with him in a way they never would for a woman. But I was easily able to find tons of instances when a woman was brought onto a man's brand and it looked infinitely better. For example, we have the classic bad boy in Hollywood turned trophy husband trope. For example, Dax Shepard back in the day was actually known as a party boy, kind of bad for your brand, so you didn't really want him around you. And then he started going out with and married Kristen Bell, who back in the day was beloved by many. And she gave America's sweetheart vibes so hard she literally went on to become a Disney princess, and now people love both of them and their family. And the dad complex plays into this a lot. Brad and Angelina. Brad was known as a bad boy, then he married Angelina, they had a ton of kids, they were a happy family, and now we know what we know about Brad, but even for years, Angelina was going to bat trying to defend him and the children and make them look good. We have Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. Katie Holmes was genuinely known as America's sweetheart back in her heyday, and Tom Cruise was a bit of a wild card. Once they paired together, they were a happy family until it came crashing down. So as you can see from a PR perspective, the best thing that a man can often do for his brand when trouble hits is bring on a woman to soften it and really humanize him. But it's often the exact opposite for women, so it's seen as a higher risk. So make sure you follow along if you're interested in my random ramblings of knowledge.